Hey, yo, you are now locked in with the Bookham Show. Building bridges, baby.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on? This is episode number 24 of the Bookham Show. And once again, I have an amazing guest, a Hoboken legend here, sitting here with me today on many levels. And I'm honored and blessed to have him here today. So without any further ado, episode number 24 with Benny Love. Clap it up for my boy Benny Love, man. What's going on, Benny? How you doing, man?
How you doing, man?
Yo, thank you for being here, man. I appreciate you being here, man. Before we move forward with you introducing yourself, I just want to tell you a quick story, man. I used to see you around in Jersey City Heights when I was a kid. And I always saw the cars that said Benny Love on it or Love or something of that nature. And I used to be intrigued because I see you was a Latino, you know, light-skinned Latino. So from the outside looking at you, I was like, wow, man, I look up to this dude without even knowing you. It's crazy because I was just like, man, this guy has the things that I, want eventually in life. Nice cars, and you look always presentable. So I just wanted to put that out there, man, just to let you know that it's crazy. You know what I mean? How I knew of you at such a young age. So introduce yourself, man. Tell us where you're from. Tell us a little bit about your history, man.
Well, thank you. I'm honored.
Yeah.
I'm from Hoboken, New Jersey. And, Hoboken, Jersey City, it's the same thing. Just born and raised in a great time, man, and a great opportunities happen. And it was like the beginning of wealth in our area. The old industry started to die off and real estate started to pick up. And I was just intrigued by what was happening. Although I was poor, I had a curiosity. So, like everybody else, our role models are drug dealers and killers. So what are you going to be? You're going to be the wrong thing first. But when you get the opportunity to just do the right thing, meet the right people, and polish up a little bit more, the world opens up. It's no longer that square mile you're in.
So you grew up in Hoboken, New Jersey. For those of you that don't know, Hoboken is part of Hudson County, New Jersey. Relatively small town, right? Small city. Square mile, yeah. Right? They do have one of the most violent projects in Hudson County. Am I right? I mean,
it's a tough neighborhood. That part now. I'm lucky to be a part of the old Hoboken, the fatherless Hoboken, where you had to fight every day. And, I say lucky because your roots are strong. It makes your roots stronger. And when you're a person of a different character, but you're in that mix, you excel because you're thicker. Your skin is thicker.
You become resilient.
You're resilient.
And you persevere. Yeah. And so you grew up in the projects?
No. I grew up uptown, but Hoboken was
so small.
I was on 12th Street, but you're only 12 blocks away from the projects,
Exactly.
And you go to the same high school, you go to the same classes, you go to the same games. So, but in our time, it's weird because even though it was small, it was a segregation between. Latinos were segregated between themselves with their little gangs, it was like Wacatangs, Hoboken Masters, and then you had the guys in the projects. You had like 5 other gangs, and it was a square mile.
Yeah, that's so crazy. So you always beefing.
You always beefing with somebody. Yeah. Somebody's son, somebody's kid. Because their father's whatever,
Yeah. And you being, because you're relatively small in stature.
Yeah.
Latino. You could come off as Italian too, right?
I get that a lot. I get that before Spanish. I get Italian.
Oh, you Puerto Rican?
I'm Puerto Rican. My
100%?
Father and my mother. Yeah.
Okay.
100%. I'm born here. They were born in Puerto Rico.
Got you. So same as me. Me. I'm Puerto Rican, both parents from Puerto Rico, but we're all mixed, man. We're all mixed.
New Rican.
Exactly. Well, yeah. New Jersey. I was born and raised. Well, my father was from the Bronx. I was born and raised in Jersey City, then went to Bayonne. But you being a Latino, light-skinned Latino, growing up in a diverse community, blacks, whites, the Italian population was pretty big, Irish, right?
Yeah.
Did you find yourself fighting more often because of your stature, you're smaller guy, you're Puerto Rican? Did you find yourself having to struggle and fight, not only physically, but throughout life?
Physically, no. I fought a lot just to fight. I love to fight.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So when I was young, I took up boxing, and everything that I learned anywhere, whether it was the gym or somebody teaching me, I just wanted to do it in the street. So I loved it, so I fought anybody and everybody.
You just had, you just had a nature.
That's my
you like
first
contact.
reputation was that. It wasn't the streets. It wasn't drugs. It was just hand in hand.
I got you. And then I heard a story about you. Many years ago, you broke a Hoboken cop's nose, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to dive into that story of how that occurred. Shout to Hoboken PD. I got I got a lot of good Hoboken cop friends.
A lot of love for Hoboken.
Yeah, of course. That's the past, sure. Man. That's the past. But that's the old you,
Yeah.
You want to dive into that story a little bit? I know something happened. Go ahead.
It wasn't even a police thing. He got involved in a fight that I was having. He was off duty. He was acting up. He was a little tipsy. And I told him to mind his business. He didn't mind his business, so I knocked him out. And I broke his nose, and then I kept hitting him until the cops came. And then I was only 15. They took me he beat the shit out of me, though. They brought me. That was the old days when the cops could beat people up. So they brought me in the police station. I was 15 years old. He put me in handcuffs. And he beat me for like a half hour. Like he was trying to break my nose, my eye sockets. Like he really was getting on me. And there was a cop. I don't want to say his name, but he was Hoboken cop. He came in and he saw what was going on. He stopped him. He's like, "No, I'm gonna take the cuffs off so you guys can fight." I said, "Yo, take the cuffs off."
Yeah.
He was like, "No." He didn't want to fight me.
Oh yeah, so that's crazy.
But then, like a minute or two later, they called him on a call. So he was like, "Yo, Ben, I gotta leave. This is my job." I was like, "Go ahead, go. Don't worry about it." What could I say?
Yeah.
Dude came in, hit me maybe 3 or 4 more times, and then another cop that was there, another Spanish cop. That was a Spanish cop too, and they, this guy was a white boy, so they were kind of like beefing over the white and Puerto Rican thing at that time.
Okay, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, what did he tell you? You better stop. I'm going to call him." So he stopped.
Yeah.
And we both went to the hospital. I was all messed up, and I was in the youth house for a couple months. And just kept going back for hearings, and I guess they were waiting for my face to heal up.
Yeah.
Really bad.
That's crazy, man. That's never okay, man. You know what I'm saying? Like even if it's the old days.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask you a question. Law enforcement was more aggressive back then. Nowadays we have de-escalation tactics. They teach us how to de-escalate situations, how to be more vocal. With that being said, do you feel that aggressive cops of that nature kept our community safer because people feared those type of cops? Or do you respect the de-escalation process now? Or do you think that's too soft?
Soft. You guys are losing. Bottom line, you guys are losing. At that time, I didn't even see anything wrong because it was like the norm. The cops would beat you up. You beat the cops up. Like it went back and forth. And there were several times I fought with cops. We went to the park and I beat them up and we just, all right, you won. We left it at that, But I protected them because I had more people than they did in the town, So when we saw them somewhere, we took care of them because Hoboken is a town where don't matter where you are, you're from Hoboken. So if you were in Jersey City, you already know there could be the kids from the projects that we don't mess with because we're from uptown and we're Puerto Rican, but when we're in Jersey City, we're from Hoboken.
You're together. Exactly.
So we always had that.
That's community.
You were a cop or you were, whatever it was.
That is what community is all about. You know what I'm saying? And I respect that answer, man. I really respect that answer because I believe in treating people with love and respect and never abusing people, right? Whether physically, in any shape, form, or fashion, abusing people in any way, because I feel like it always comes back to you, man. And me personally, I want to be that cop. I got 18 years, but I want to be that cop that could walk through my community and feel like I'm loved and respected because I treat people with love and respect. You feel me?
Right.
Obviously, the job will call for violence at times, and you have to be prepared for that time when violence comes, but you shouldn't induce it on somebody is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So thank you for that answer, brother. Let's move forward. You got involved into the streets heavy. There's, a little bit of your history is drug dealing. Tell us how you got involved in that. And do you regret that path that you took?
I don't regret it. And with all honesty, I don't regret it because it was probably the best time of my life. Because, coming from where I came from to having everything and just, it was like winning the lotto overnight. I'm a businessman, so anything that I do, it's got a formula. It has a performer. It has a system. So I took a lot of time and drove by myself to try to just utilize my brain power and figure out how I was learning different things because I wasn't really good with school. I was always in the smarter class, where they had the levels of classes. I was always in the better, in that better class, but it was more like I always knew there was something else, but it came from inside. Like, I believe in God, so I believe that I have a different power and a different luck, because even when I was hustling, like, I still prayed every day when I woke up. Like, yeah, I knew I was going to go and I wasn't going to hide from God. Like, going to say, oh, I'm not doing it today, and then go outside and do something. I was doing everything that I said I was going to do, and I never hid it from God. So that's number one. Then two, I know and I learned from like YouTube and a lot of people that I was listening to that you have a higher brain power than you actually use. So if you take your own time out and you just get away from the world, you can start leveling up the percentage of your brain waves and your brain power, so you're not in the mix of what's in front of you, all the advertisements and all the people and all the, just all the chatter. So when I got into the game, I studied it like a market, and I looked for trends. And I learned that like after my first year, I completely was just immersed into how am I gonna become this, the Godfather, Tony Montana, like those are the role models of that time, right? So what I would do is you watch trends like the stock market, and every third quarter, the market would tighten up. There'd be a drought. The prices would go up. So I said, well, next year, I'm going to quadruple my inventory. Instead of holding money, instead of buying something else. Now in the fourth quarter, I'm in demand. When it was 18, it went up to 35. So that means it doubled. And it got weaker. So that means you stepped on it. So you made triple and quadruple. So on one bird, you got 4. So if you pay 20, you make 80. You break it up, you make 250. I could retire any drug dealer, like listen, all you need is 1 year. Not that I'm glorifying it. I do not glorify it. I do not do it. I do not condone it. Even the weed thing. People call me all the time to get into this new weed thing, this new weed law. Listen, I told God I'll never sell drugs again. I don't care.
It's good, man.
I sold hot dogs.
I saw you. Down in Hoboken. I saw
hot
you.
Dogs. I said I wouldn't do it again. And I showed everybody, because you know why? I got a sign of proof. To the people that think that they're listening to the right people, I'll show you that it's not the product, it's you. It's not what you sell, and it's not what you make, it's what you save and what you do with your money. You'll never go broke spending your profit.
That's some good information, man. Some good information. I mean, I've seen you out there with nice cars, Lamborghinis, Range Rovers, and
Bentleys, Ferraris,
everything, man. You pull up in everything. Foreign. You was out here in foreigns, man. When you were living that life, that hustler's life, and we're gonna get into the real estate, the meat and potatoes, because that's what you are. You're a real estate guru. You're a hustler. You're doing $1 million closings. You're doing a lot of big things in your community. With that being said, while you were doing this, living this life of crime, driving these nice cars, a lot of times I saw you by yourself.
Always
by yourself, man. Were you ever in fear of any retribution or anything to come your way?
I'm in fear of people. I got a rule. At that time, so you always have, like, let's call it, just for namesake for everybody to understand, you have a stash spot, right? Stash house or whatever you call it. I had somebody that I was really close to. And if I was on my way there, I would drop him off. And the reason why I would drop him off was because I trusted him. And why would I take somebody else later on that I'm cool with, just not on his level, maybe a notch under, right? And I've got to go to pick up whatever it is. And I would just, all right, listen, I'm going to drop you off. And I had the confidence to take him and feel comfortable with that person. But it's just that law. All right, well, if I didn't take him, then I'm not taking him. And I always, I'm more scared of other people than being by myself. If you attack me,
that's crazy.
I feel that I'm more powerful by myself than I am with your vulnerability.
That's crazy. That's actually amazing that you said that, because I'm very similar in that fashion where, I have the Bridges Project and I do what I do, nonprofit, but I feel like I'm more effective alone. You know, I feel like the more hands in the pot, it causes an issue with the recipe or whatever the term is, right? Yeah, so I respect that, man. And it's true, because I used to see you all the time by yourself, but you did get shot.
Yeah.
You did get shot. And I know when you got shot, I heard about it because I was I was a rapper. I was in the streets around people that knew you, and everybody knew you. You want to talk about that night and tell us exactly what happened, how it went down, and were you in fear for your life when it went down?
Well, I was shoveling snow. I was already out of the game. When I say out of the game, that was like the last year of reducing whatever I had. So I used to overstock, right?
Yeah.
So what I did that last year, because my son was born, and I was like, oh, thank God, now I'm going to change a new leaf. I have, now I know what credit is. I know the power of credit.
Yes.
I know the power of equity and your FICO. So I was already out, and then whatever stock I had left, right? All I was doing was wholesaling it so I wouldn't lose money. That's all I did. I wasn't making a dime it was no profit. So I was already done. And the reason why I got shot was probably because I was minding somebody else's business, right? And it really wasn't my problem. It was a situation where I had a friend who supposedly was ratting on some dudes from the street. And they were always coming to me about it was just a problem that was escalating to a level where they wanted to kill him. And I was the wall in front of him, because I was the one with the reputation.
Yeah.
So it just got to the point where, one day I'm shoveling snow in front of one of the houses. It's one of those lessons, and I tell everybody from the hood, when you get out, you got to get out. You got to keep you can't keep a toe in, because if I was completely 100% out, I got rid of everything that I had, I was done. But I kept because of my ego, I kept my name in the beefs. So I'm saying to myself, well, I ain't in the street. I'm not going to get locked up. The feds ain't going to do nothing to me. I like fighting. It is what it is. But in this situation, it just got escalated to a point where, people were getting shot, right? And then, like I said, I minded somebody's business. It wasn't my beef. And I feel like that was it. I turn around, the kid got a gun with a silencer and a tech. I go to let him by, and he startled because I turned around just at the right time. And when he startled, I looked down and I saw the gun. When I saw the gun, my reaction was to smack the silencer, thinking, like a movie.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not like a movie. As soon as you touch that gun, it's shooting you. Because as soon as I smacked it, and I thought that I could pop, take the gun and shoot him. No, he shot me because his reaction, he had his finger on the trigger.
Oh, man.
He pulled back, but he stood stuck. He locked up. He just stayed there.
Wow.
And I was like, yo, I'm hit. I'm going to the hospital. I lifted my arm up because he shot me on this side. I was like, yo, I'm hit. I'm going to the hospital. And I just put my head down, walked slow, sideways. I didn't even run. It was like fight or flight. And it was something telling me, God was telling me, don't run because you're going to scare him. Don't look at him because you're going to scare him. Don't, I was
he might have shot you in the back.
He probably would have shot me if I would have given him, if I would have startled him again.
Yeah, of course.
I get in the truck and I'm going to pull off, and I see Primo, the kid that was working for me, he was shoveling the other property. He didn't hear it because it was a silencer.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I looked, the dude's still on the corner, froze up. So I said, let me grab him before he snaps out of it, kills him, think he's a witness,
Oh, yeah.
I drove myself to the hospital, told Preem, get in, let's go to the hospital, I said, Preem, get in, I got shot. So he gets in the car, and I drive to the hospital. And when I take my shirt off, the bullet falls out of the other side of my body. That's when I started panicking, because I had a big hole on this side, and there was no blood. It was all internal bleeding.
Oh, shit.
And I started getting weak, and I flatlined. I died, and then I had 3 major operations. I was on life support for 3 months, and it was a. I wouldn't even call it a lesson, because I wasn't in the game. I wasn't looking for trouble. But if I'm gonna say something, it's if you're out, you're out. The beefs, the friends that are liabilities. The girls are the liabilities, I'm the guy that will date a girl, and I want to know if her brother's a drug dealer, a troublemaker, a thief, or, the families, you want to know, because that's the kind of shit you're going to get in later on. You change your whole life, and then his beef was going to come to your house.
All of a sudden, now, that's exactly, you're 100% correct. And I tell these young kids all the time, don't be getting involved with women that have men that are with somebody, because you're putting yourself. One of my supervisors once told me, Amir, he said, yo, we drove by the cemetery, and he goes, you see that cemetery? There's more men in the cemetery over women than anything else. It's crazy. So I was like, really? I was like, okay. But that's a crazy story, and I'm glad that you're here to tell it. I believe it's a testimony. I believe that God saved you for a purpose, and those prayers that you were doing as a young kid, came to fruition because God did have his hand over you. That dude froze. God forbid. With a silencer, that means it's a hit. To me, I'm like, that's a hit. You know what I mean?
And he had a tech.
Yeah, a tech. So that's murder. So, all right, let's move forward into where you're at now, the success you're having in real estate. But before I ask any questions in regards to that, how'd you get the name Benny Love? Is that your government name, or how'd you get that name?
It's my current. I bought it.
Oh, you bought
it? I own Benny Love.
That's dope. Okay.
So I didn't have a relationship with my father. I didn't want to be like my father. I'm born fatherless. Even though he was in Hoboken and I knew exactly who he was, and we would run into each other every now and then. But he didn't deserve for me to do with the legacy that I see. I'm legacy driven. So I didn't want to give him the opportunity to ever say, that's my boy. I did that. No, because you did it. My mother did that. My mother was just my mother's a beast. Like she taught me everything I know, and I just toughened it up to get by, Now, the Benny Love thing was when my daughter was going to be born, I had my lawyer, Danny Welsh. You know Danny?
Yeah, I know Danny. Yeah, he's crazy. Yeah. So Danny, shout to Danny Welsh, man.
You're the best. Danny, he's a trip.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. So Danny, I told Danny, I said, I want to start my own generation. I want my daughter to be loved. I'm not carrying this bullshit, Rivera. I was Rivera, like you.
I'm Rivera. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't do nothing for me, and I wasn't gonna give him that opportunity. So then when he passed on, they called me. Hey, can you come? Do you want to come and see him on his last hour or whatever? No, I don't know him.
Man,
God bless him. And I told my sister, I said, I don't know why you're there, because I raised you, right? Since I was 12 years old, I've been putting food on the table until I started bringing in money to the house, and that was because of him. And when he died, I didn't go to the funeral because I didn't want anybody to say, I'm sorry for your dad. Because I don't want to be there telling everybody.
Yeah, he wasn't there for me.
I don't want to look ignorant. So I was like, you know what? God bless him for everything that we had to go through because he wasn't there.
Do you think, I'm sorry for your loss. Either way you put it, man, listen. My father wasn't there for me either. I know who he is. We do talk. And I believe that trauma and those experiences make you a better person and a better father. You have children.
Better or bitter?
Better or bitter? Yeah.
You have a choice.
You can, you do have a choice. You could choose to be, you could choose to use that as an excuse to be a terrible father and a terrible person, which a lot of people do, right?
Yeah.
We know victim or victor.
Yeah.
So, you chose to be a victor.
Yeah.
My question, what I want to say to you is, does a small part of you regret not having that conversation with him and saying, man, why weren't you there for me? Because I'm going to tell you what happened with me and my pops real quick. My pops grew up in an orphanage. I didn't know this till later in life. I held it against my pops all the time. Like, yo, you never came to see me. You never spent time with me. It hurt me so much. But my father never knew love. So I was requiring the love from him that he never had. He didn't know how to love. So now he's in a weak state. He's a little sick. And I try to be there for him as much as possible. Do you wish you had those moments to reconcile?
All right, you just brought me something that was funny.
Yeah.
So I never had a real conversation with my father, right?
Okay.
I'm sitting in jail for shooting somebody. Thanksgiving, my daughter's first Thanksgiving. So on the 21st or 2nd, I got locked up for shooting somebody. I didn't shoot the guy, but I didn't rat on the guy. So I'm in the county, right? Mm-hmm. And they have movement. After to get into population, I was already in population. And I look and I'm like, no way. On Thanksgiving, my father.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, nah, no way. But you know what? There's a lesson in this because I always said I didn't want to be like my father. And here I am. On Thanksgiving, my daughter's very first Thanksgiving of her existence, right?
Yeah.
And the first Thanksgiving that I ever spent with my father in my life, and we're in jail. Yeah.
Wow.
It was just crazy.
Did you have a conversation with him?
Yeah. I was like, yo, come over here. And he saw me. He's like, oh, what are you doing here? And then, you know, back and forth.
Yeah.
My conversation with him, and I asked him, I said, you ever gonna change? Because he had another family. He has, you know, he has some girls, another boy, you know, beautiful family.
Yeah.
I met them before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, you know, you're gonna change for them? Look, I'm already here, you know, we're already grown up.
Yeah, yeah.
He was like, he kept it real with me. He was like, this is who I am. I'm gonna die like this.
God bless him,
all right,
man.
well, I thank you for not lying to me.
God bless, yeah.
First time I ever told you, and you didn't lie to me.
Yeah.
All right.
At least he
I'll
kept
take
it
that.
real, man.
Yeah.
And that's real. And I appreciate that. I appreciate when somebody's authentic. Now, what is a lot of people use the term, this is the last question I'm going to ask before I get into the meat and potatoes, but a lot of people in our generation use the word, you a real one. What does that term mean to you?
There's
what is a real one to you?
There's a post and there's a past, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the real one was the ignorance. That's why I'm a role model now, because you know, all my role models, like I said, were drug dealers and killers, right? Mm-hmm. So all I learned was to keep it real for your dude, right? Oh, you die for your man, you die for this, you die for that, and then when you get older, you know, and you go through so much, and you just get tired of the bullshit, because I guess I'm lucky because I never did drugs, so I see life in a different way always. I never smoked weed. I never drank. I was never, you know, I never want to be that guy that they said, oh, you know, he came out of drugs or whatever. Just selling it is one thing. You know what? It was a business for me. I did what I had to do, and I fed my family, and I walked away from it. But as far as that, keeping it real is more legacy, changing generations. And it's not even the people that you're born with. It's, you know, looking outside and seeing the kids going through the same thing, because it's just a mirror of you every time you see these little kids acting up. Because they're not acting up, they're acting out. That's all they know.
Yeah, yep. I believe that wholeheartedly, that a lot of these kids just don't have role models.
Yeah.
You know, and you're in a position, I always say this, man, guys like you, God uses them, you know, because in the Bible it says, you know, and it's been proven that God will use the most imperfect people to make his mission or create his mission or fulfill his purpose and will in somebody else's life. So now, with the real estate, how'd you get started in real estate? What made you switch from streets to getting into real estate?
I just saw how the city was turning. You know, you're hearing conversations. I never had a direct you know, role model or contact with somebody who did, but who was making these changes in town. But you heard of people like 𝘱𝑰𝑟𝑒𝑎, like he's our Donald Trump of Hoboken. So without knowing him, 𝘱𝑰𝑟𝑒𝑎, you know. And
I never heard of him.
Oh, you never heard of
No,
Pup?
never heard of him. Yeah,
I go out to dinner with him and the family every day. I'm going to the Super Bowl next week with them.
Oh, nice.
Like, yeah,
okay.
He's a great person. And you just hear that. And then later on, you know what? He sees me one day. Yo, Benny Love, come here. I want to talk to you. You know, I was like, oh, yeah. You know, because I bought these cars to get noticed, because I don't have the uncle, the father, or the people that can, hey, you know, hey, Dan, you know, this guy, I want to introduce you to Ben. I didn't have that. So in order for me to introduce myself, I had to overbuy. So instead of buying a Mercedes, I bought a Bentley. I went a little harder.
Yeah.
So that way everybody talks about the guy with the Bentley, because that's going to open the door for me. And then I went to restaurants and places that like people that were from the city hung out, or, you know, in real estate hung out, and there was always somebody there that knows me, whether it was from the negative or the positive, it didn't matter to me. I parked my car in a corner, give me a ticket. I don't care, a $50 ticket. But you know the connection that I'm going to make inside is going to take care of me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I'm parking a Bentley. Even Noriega was in the Port of Spain one day, and he was with some dudes, and we started talking because they were, oh, that's Benny Love with the Bentley, and, you know, and it just opened those doors that fast forward 20 years later, you know, I'm still doing the car thing because I love the cars, number one, but it also opens another door, gives me another identity. You know, it just makes it that much easier, because at that point, like, you're throwing out the bait for people to want to talk to you.
Yes.
When you drive in with a hoopty, you know how it is, you know? But when you drive up with a new Mercedes or a BMW or a Bentley or something, now it's like you arrived.
They take you serious. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah, shout to Coach Prime, Colorado University. He said that, Alec, here at the game, remember? He said, we ain't coming no more. We here. We are here.
Here.
So you make your presence be felt as you walk through the door, as you drive to the scene. I like that.
I put Benny Love on every car.
I see that. I know.
Even my
yeah.
Bentley had Bentley Love.
I know.
My first Bentley had Bentley Love.
Yeah,
Just
wow.
to mess around, I put Bentley Love.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember seeing your cars all over, and it was like, wow. You know what I mean? Can somebody with bad credit that wants to buy a house in this market?
So depending on your income, there's no doc loans that you can, you can finagle your way to get anything if you're putting the right percent down. You with good credit as a cop, you would put 5 to 10%. Somebody with bad credit would have to put 40%. You lessen the liability. That's like when you buy a car or, a house or whatever you want.
So as long as you have the money, you could, doesn't matter your credit.
The bank will figure it out in most cases.
Most cases,
If
gotcha.
your credit is really, really, really bad, where you owe so much, you got to clear all your debt.
Yeah.
You got to zero debt. You got to have your ratios got to be right. But then you up the ante with the percent you're putting down. Then they start taking you more serious.
Got you. Are there any, well, now we know that the market, I'm a homeowner by the grace of God. 3 years, I bought a house. Thank you. And went through the process. I was blessed, man, because this was right before the spike in the interest rate. So I got my home at 2.75.
Wow.
Shout to Mamoon, shout to Justin for that. I appreciate it. My bad for not reaching out to you when I was going through that.
It's okay.
To be honest, we wasn't really in contact at that time. You know what I mean? And I had friends close to me. So with that being said, it's at 8% now. Yeah. 7 to 8%. Am I right? Is that the...
Yeah, but it's nothing to be afraid of.
No, it's not. So, explain to people, you just said it's nothing to be afraid of. Explain to the people that are interested in buying a home why they shouldn't be afraid.
I'm going to give my information later on. You want me to
I'll put it on the bottom of the screen.
Elaborate on some of the stuff that I'm talking about if you don't get it right away. But, so this is a personal thing where I'm giving you, it's an opinion. Like every real estate, I'm not an attorney. I can't give you law. But what I say is, don't be afraid to buy a house now. Don't be afraid of the credit. Don't be afraid of the interest rate. Let's say you buy a house right now. You bought at 2%.
Yeah.
I buy it at 8%, right? A deal is a deal. Equity is equity, right? So I'm going to put down the percent that I'm going to want to put down. And then when the rates go down to 5%, my mortgage is going to go down. So if I can afford my mortgage today, in 2 years, let's give it 2 years, 24 months, the rate drops to 5%, and I take that loan, now I could really afford my mortgage, right? And the one thing that I could always count on going up is my taxes. So I just bought room for my taxes to go up and always stay safe. Because if you have a job and your increase is 3 to 5% every year, right, annually, right, your taxes and all the other inflation is going to outweigh whatever percentage you make, unless you're making 50% every year, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So you do it now. Oh, I can afford it. You calculate it. If you can afford it now, you can afford it for 10 years. Because in 2 years, you're going to get a rate drop. Don't pull out the equity. Leave that alone. You get a rate drop. Now your mortgage drops. And let your taxes increase little by little. Because they're gonna. You're safe.
So you don't recommend refinancing at any point?
No, well, it depends what you're gonna use the money for.
Yeah.
I feel that real estate should be something that you refinance to grow. I don't feel that that refinancing your money to pay negative debt, like credit card debt and all that other stuff. No, you know what? Figure out a way to consolidate your loan somehow. Work 2 more hours every week. And add that to your principal.
Got you. So talk about principal. That's another point. With the principal, is it, do you recommend people add when they pay their mortgage to also put aside for principal?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
I even recommend it with a car.
Really?
I recommend it with your light bill. What's your light bill? Put another $20. You're going to get another month or 2 free.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
You put $20 more, right? Think about it. How much is that at the end of the year?
That's true.
You're
Yeah, $20. Yeah, $240. Yeah.
You can do it with everything.
Yeah.
You can scale it down to the most minimal thing.
Got you. So I didn't know that you could add principal to other bills and costs. You just put extra, is what you're saying. Just add extra.
So you pay your bill, right? Let's say your bill's $1,000 on your car. $1,100. It's almost like getting a free note because it's working off the back number. So it's bringing you in closer from 60 months to 59, giving you that equity. And then you know what? If you take a property and you're under 20% and you're paying the mortgage insurance, right? The PMI, and you make a little more of that payment and you reach that, your payment's going to come down once you're in that 20% range.
Got you. So if somebody wants to buy a house today and they want to reach Benny Love, you have your own real estate company.
No, I work for Liberty Realty.
You work for Liberty Realty?
Yeah.
Okay. You work for Liberty Realty. Shout to Liberty Realty.
Yeah, they're
and if they want to buy a house, what are the steps they have to take before they call you? Or can they call you and you walk them through it?
Call me and then I'll walk them through it. Yeah, there's a couple of steps that you might have to explain. If they might be common to you because you did it already, but they might have to I might have to work a scenario or two through so that they can, target with it, get in on it.
Got you.
But just keep your credit, protect all your numbers. So when I mentor kids, I tell them protect all your numbers. Your social security number, don't get locked up. Okay? Protect your driver's license, so you protect your insurance quotes. Right? That's your number, your driver's license.
That's
number,
true. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And your credit score, your FICO. You got to protect your numbers. You protect those numbers, you can do whatever you want without money. Because if you go to the bank with $100,000, they won't lend you 30. If you don't have credit, right? But if you have credit, you could go with 30 and they'll lend you 100,000.
That's crazy. And a lot of people say that. A lot of people in the finance world, they always say billionaires have said that. I've seen podcasts and they always say never use your own money, always use credit.
Yeah. They skip a lot of steps though.
Yeah.
They skip a lot of steps. That's for the guys that already have some money, some equity. You get to a certain point where you're in demand, all right? So now the banks are whoring themselves out to you, in a sense, In the beginning, listen, it's like the beginning of anything. If you're playing baseball, the coach doesn't give a shit about you until you get a bunch of base hits. Then you get noticed. If you're boxing, you win a couple of fights, then they'll notice. Then they want to work with you.
Yeah.
So the coaches are all looking because now you're beating everybody up. You get me?
That's a good analogy. I'm glad you put it that way. When you buy a house, a lot of people that I talk to, they're like, oh, I want to buy a two-family because I want to subsidize what I have to pay monthly. Me personally, I wasn't intrigued in that. One, because I want to have privacy, right? Two, I see it as a liability sometimes because if you have a bad tenant, everybody's amazing in the beginning, right? They might be the best tenant for a couple of months, but then you have them, causing issues, being loud, having it. And then the landlord-tenant court a lot of times sides with the tenant. With all that being said, when someone's buying a home, obviously, I know you're going to say it depends on what your goals are, right? What do you want to do? Do you want to build equity? Do you want to build credit? But would you recommend for a family that wants to minimize their monthly mortgage and payments to buy a two-family? Or would you say buy a single family, get used to being a homeowner, and then jump into something else?
You're a liability. Your property is a liability to you. It's the opposite. Not having a bad tenant is having a bad tenant.
Wow.
You get me?
That's crazy. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
All right.
So you're saying two families better.
I would actually try to do a 3 or better because when you get into the 3 or better range, right, you can take a vacancy because the vacancy is your profit on the 4th. Okay.
Say that again.
Your vacancy is your profit on the 4th unit, right?
Gotcha.
It's your profit, right? So now, unit number 1 that you live in, right, you're paying whatever you can pay. Bad tenant number 1, right, is helping you build equity and helping you pay your mortgage. Bad tenant number 3, we're gonna call them all bad tenants, right? Bad tenant number 3 is gonna offset the cost now and take your liability away, right?
Yeah.
So these 2 apartments should be paying your mortgage. Or 80% of it, the 4th apartment should be putting you in the black. You got me?
I got you.
Right?
I got you.
So now, if tenant number 4 moves out, you can still afford the property between the 3 of you. 40, and your 20% until you get somebody.
Gotcha. That's a good way of putting it. I guess for me, it was just a point of, not having that privacy and me being in law
You have
enforcement.
stability, though. You're different. You have the security of law enforcement.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're good. If something happens, you're covered. Everybody isn't.
Exactly. What advice would you give anybody right now that's on the cusp of saying, I want to get a house? Should I get a house? Tell them real quick, what is the ultimate benefit of being a homeowner?
It depends now. Because all right, devil's advocate. You can rent a condo and have all the amenities, right? Or you could buy a condo and have all the amenities, right? If I were to buy new coming in, I'd probably buy a condo before I'd buy a house in a bad neighborhood. I'd buy a condo in a good neighborhood because that's where the equity is going to start to grow.
Yes. Yep.
Faster, first, and you're going to put a better qualified, not a better person, morally or ethically, a better qualified tenant in that area than you would if you try to move out of a blighted neighborhood. Got you.
Okay. All right, man. Well, listen, man, I'm just so glad to have you here. You're a well of knowledge, man. And I'm a firm believer that people that are from the street, and I had a captain, shout to Captain Bernadette. She passed away a few years back. She was with the prosecutor's office. She was in the SVU unit, and I went to method of instruction training with her. She showed up in a long white tee, right? She was a morena. Showed up in a long white tee, Amir, with some Jordans, right? Older lady to training. And this is like a formal, 5-day training. So I'm like a little taken back. I'm like, so I approach her when we have a break, and I'm like, Captain, with all due respect, if you don't mind me asking, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You're dressed down, you're a captain. Are you not worried of what? She goes, let me tell you something. She goes, this is who I am. I'm from the urban setting. I feel comfortable like this. And she goes, in my career, I will always take somebody that's street smart over book smart because they know how to deal with people. That's what she told me. And they know how to deal with obstacles and diversity and different demographics of people, which I see in you, man, because not blowing smoke up your ass, but I see how smart you are. The little details, I pay attention to little details. And one of them is you took the tag off the water, right? Little details. You don't want to see that, okay, this water is from here. You're very smart in your approach to business and in life. And I've had conversations with you, not in depth, but the small conversations I've had, I've gained, and I respect your demeanor.
Thank you.
I respect your modesty. And I thank you for being here today, man. It meant a lot for me to have you here today. And I thank you for that. I really appreciate you. The last question that I have for you today is, what is your motivation? Is your motivation money, family, or success?
Legacy. Along with legacy comes everything else. Because if you set the bar at legacy, every branch has to be that, has to be family, has to be money, has to be community, has to be morals, has to be, direction. I've been fortunate to just be a different type of thinker, but be in a place where we don't think about those things, right? I don't know why. DuPont registries, Robb reports, Forbes, I don't know why I took interest in those things. And then when YouTube got busy, Les Brown, Billy Alsbrooks, and I'll take the hours and wake up every day and just listen to these things. So back to the legacy thing, right, is I feel I need to buy the Ferrari that I own. I need to buy the Land Rover that I own because I come from that, right? Those are my core wants, right? So it keeps me in a stable mindset without thinking. Like if I already have the car, I don't have to think about the car, right? Jeff Bezos, he wears a white T-shirt. He doesn't think about getting dressed. So not Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, right? I actually created a program, not to good of course. Shop online, ship it to Benny Love. I'm bringing that to all the communities for porch pirates. So you're going to be shipping the packages to me, and I'm going to be your third party delivery service when you are home. Okay, so that's going to start in Hoboken. I did it a while back. I beta tested it. It worked out. Now I'm going to put it to work. But the legacy thing is, I continue to buy these cars and dress the way I dress, and I'm still a guy you could touch, because I know there's kids out there that need it. You know, so like I mentioned to somebody before, you know, when I meet kids, yeah, they're all good kids right now, but one of them might be a drug addict one day. The girl might be a stripper. You know, the other guy might want to kill somebody. I understand them all. You know, so I don't want to wear a suit and they feel like, I can't talk to the guy because he's in a suit. He don't understand.
Yes.
Most of the time, you know what? I'm dressed like this, or a collared shirt.
I can relate to you, and you're approachable.
Yeah,
yes.
And I have the cars that you want to talk to me. Hey, Ben. You know, like, everywhere I go. You know, like the car thing is instilled like for me when I was a kid. My mother
I've always seen you.
Yeah, my mother used to buy me the Hot Wheels and give me her nail polish, and I used to paint them. You know, like it's always been a thing for me. I just didn't know. I figured out later on that it was going to work for me. You know, like it was a conduit to success. You know,
mom
like,
kind of planted the seed on that.
She did without knowing, you know, and like I said, it's a conduit because I get to enjoy it, and I get to meet people, and I get to touch people. Yeah, you know, so it works, and I'm lucky. I don't know, God just
you're blessed, man. There's no such thing as luck. I believe that you're blessed, you're favored. Even when you did the negative things, God knows His people. And, you know, God will cover His people, even in the midst of adversity, obstacles, right? So, you know, in the midst of you drug dealing, in the midst of you making that a Hoboken fighting, in the midst of you getting shot, you're still here standing. So once again, man, I thank you for your time. You know, I wish the parking situation could have been better.
It's all right, it's all right.
You know, but tell the people real quick how they could reach you. And what's the best way to reach you if they want to if they have any questions about real estate? All right.
𝘠𝘰𝘆𝑅ealty @gmail.com. That'll be the easiest if you can't remember my phone number, 201-400-6907. But if you go on IG, I put my name on everything. One thing that before I go, I put my name on everything, and there's a reason for that. There's a million Bennys in the world, but there's only one Benny Love, or maybe, I don't know, somewhere there could be another one. But whoever you are, introduce yourself with your full name every time, because they'll never forget you that way. Thank you so much, Benny Love. Episode number 24. This was an epic one. I'm so glad to have you here. Stay tuned for more great episodes of The Bookham Show. Once again, Benny Love, man. Great show. And shout to Angel Light Productions, the production team here, Amir and Alakir.
Hey, yo, you are now locked in with The Bookham Show. Building bridges, baby.